All right, guys. Welcome, everybody. Woo! You guys, we're officially halfway through this. It's been incredible to be here and to grow with everyone here. Raise your hand if you've learned something new about self-care. I know I did. Who's made new friends? Raise your hand. I better see everybody hand up. And if you did not make a friend tonight or today, you better come see me, because you got a friend, okay? We're all family here. All right, guys. Who made some art? I know I did. My leaf that I made, it wasn't all that, but it was beautiful to me. All right, guys. This summit, I'm so excited. Wait, who's excited about the party tonight? Are you guys ready to get your dance off? I can't wait to see you guys. I'm so excited. This summit has been so empowering and refreshing. The discussions and learnings we are having are important to our future organizing and to win unions for all workers. I'm so glad we're all in this space together. Remember, we're all family. We have some deep stuff to dig into, and we're going to. But I want to make sure that we're all in the right space. So let's all do this together. Take a deep breath in. I'm going to count to 4. So in, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then hold it and let it out. We're going to try one more time. All right? So deep breath in and out. Count to 4. How do you guys feel? You guys feel good? I know I do. Okay, one more time, and then we're going to start. Hold it in, deep breath in, and out. All right. All right, I think we're ready. Yesterday, we talked about the state of things and the challenges that we face organizing and winning Union for All. Today, we're going to hear from some incredible women who are arm to arm with us, trying to win a more just future. So let's get it started. All right, yesterday we were all inspired by her. So let's kick it off, our conversation with SEIU International President April Verrett.
Nope, it's on. Hey, y'all. Let's give it up for V. So, good afternoon. I need a little more love. I like it. Good afternoon. Because turn down for what, right? So, as you all know, I'm April Verrett, the International President of SEIU. And it is absolutely thrilling. I like that word. It is thrilling to be back here in this room with all of my sisters and siblings. And thank you all for being flexible this morning as we all have been dealing with the weather. The weather outside is frightful. I'm a little soon for Christmas jingles, but I don't know any other song right now, right? Y'all can help me out. But I just want to take a little pause here to reflect on the storm, right? Hurricanes, flash floods, tornado warnings. Y'all, this is just not about the weather. This is climate change, right? It is real, it is active, it is present in our lives. And it is just one of the threats that working people face. And to be clear about it, it is poor folks who are impacted the most, right? You can clap for that. It is poor folks who are impacted the most. People who cannot afford to leave. And I just got to say, we are still saying the same thing. How many years since Katrina? Right? It is poor people who can't afford to leave. And it is workers whose jobs require us to stay, is it not? I'm talking about some folks in this room, home care workers. You all don't. Home care workers don't abandon their clients during a storm. Y'all actually leave your house, leave your safety, and you go to them to make sure that they are okay. And Christina Lockyer White, nursing home workers, damn sure, right, don't back down in the storm. Neither do hospital workers or EMTs or first responders. You know, y'all stay put and you take care of the people when they need you to. And it's not just healthcare workers or first responders, it's fast food workers and warehouse workers, folks who might try to get to safety or stay home, but they tell y'all gotta come in, right? Or they're gonna fire you. And so it's important that we remember the impact of climate change. And it's also important to remember our members and our staff in Florida who are directly impacted by this. And I know I just talked to a woman here who lives in Tampa. And thankfully, she shared with me that her family is okay. There's flooding, you know, but folks are dealing with real stuff right now in Florida and in other states that are in the path of the storm. So let's be mindful and send our heart and our prayers out to our siblings as they deal with yet another ramification of the damage that we have done to our planet. And when we talk about unions for all, that means addressing climate change too. It means dealing with everything that threatens working folks' health and happiness and opportunity to thrive. Yesterday, you heard me talk about building enough worker power to do the big things. Well, healing our planet is one of the big things that we must build our power to do. So let's be mindful of that, right? And I pray that you all get home safely tomorrow as the storm continues to rage. So turning the page. So we all know that North Carolina is saying North Kakalaka a thing? Is that a thing, North Kakalaki? No? Somebody tell me, April, don't ever say that again if I shouldn't say that. Don't say that again? Okay, sorry. So North Carolina, right, y'all got, somebody will tell me what I'm supposed to say. So we all know North Carolina got a little bit of swag, right? But that's not the only reason that we are here. We are in North Carolina because it is an important battleground state in our path to winning our presidential election. I see you, Anderson. I see you. It is one of the places where workers are saying that we matter. Our votes matter. You will hear us. Because why? This election is about who? This election is about us. And that is why we are all going to go out together tomorrow and knock doors and talk to voters. I don't want to hear that, oh, my foot hurt, or I didn't pack the right shoes. No, y'all getting up out of here tomorrow. Y'all getting up out of here tomorrow, and we're going to go knock some doors, and we're going to go talk to voters, right? Right? All right. And we're also here in the South because it is a battleground every single day. It is a battleground every single day when it comes to workers fighting to be respected, protected, and paid. Whether it is here in Charlotte or in Atlanta or Birmingham or Chattanooga or Jackson or my favorite town in the South, Fannin, Mississippi, where my folks are from. Folks all over the South, workers are uniting and we are winning. And we're putting the full weight of SEIU and our 2 million members behind them. So I am announcing to all of you all today that SEIU is committing to at least a $50 million investment to build worker power across the South by 2030. I think that is worthy of me saying it one more time. SEIU is committing to an at least $50 million investment to build worker power across the South by 2030. I think that was USSW back there. I know. I know that. Oh! This commitment is part of our bold vision to organize 1 million service and care workers into our union over the next 10 years. And we are making this commitment to workers to build our union and our movement. But it is nowhere near enough. Now, $50 million ain't no chump change. Let's get it clear. And much respect to the hardworking members of SEIU that invest their hard-earned dollars and that allow us to be able to make that investment. But it is nowhere near enough. We need others in our movement to meet us and come to all of these places in the South where workers are building power and demanding a voice on the job. We will be your partner, and we will do it together. Because when we fight together, we win. We win together. That's right. And I know this is true. As goes the South, goes the Union. As goes the South, goes the Union. As goes the South, goes worker power. As goes the South, goes our freedom and our democracy. So as just one example of our commitment, we're going to go out and be in front of the Waffle House tomorrow. One of them, because I'm sure there's a lot. But we're going out to the Waffle House tomorrow to call on them and to call out their corporate greed and the failure to protect workers who work at the Waffle House. That's right. We are going to make it clear that we are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and we are over it. The Waffle House is stealing from workers, plain and simple, and we're not going to stand for it. Period. Nonstop. Corporations have exploited generations of black workers, generations of brown workers, generations of poor workers of every single race. And they want to keep union busting as the status quo in the South. But it's going to stop here, not on our watch. It's going to stop with us. We are what corporations and racist politicians are the most afraid of. We are energetic. We are, well, I'm gonna stop going off script. We are energetic. We are multiracial, multigenerational. We are a movement of workers demanding transformative justice. Okay, I just can't help myself. And we're very thoughtful and very cutesy and very demure. You'll see workers and supporters from the North Carolina AFL-CIO, from the teachers union. We're going to have airport workers and others, because we know that our fights and our fates and our future are all interconnected. So let me say it one more time. You heard me say it yesterday. I'm saying it again today. Fight for 15 is brilliant, but 15 ain't enough. We need at least 25 to survive. And you all are demanding that in your campaigns. We are all in to elect Vice President Harris and Governor Walz this November. And again, I promise I'm gonna stop going off script. But somebody, who's that fool? I'm sorry, who's the guy that's running for governor here? I'm sorry. Y'all. Right? Sis. Oh, okay, enough of that. Y'all already know. So we are going to elect Vice President Harris and Governor Walz this November, and worker champions up and down the ballot. And those votes that we are casting, who are those votes for? Those votes are for us. This election will be about us and every single marginalized community. It is about women and femmes and non-binary folks and trans folks and people of color and immigrants. And this election is not just about us, it's about our issues. It is about our demands. It is about our futures. It is about building a country where we can thrive and be joyful. And we're following up our votes with that $50 million investment to organize here in the South, to raise wages and standards across entire industries. So hear me when I say this. Y'all, we are going to win unions for all. And we are gonna build enough worker power to do all of the good things, to have a future that is beyond our wildest imaginings. And we are going to end poverty wage work for once and for all. So let's get into it. Let's get into it. I am joined here today by some powerful leaders, my sisters from across the women's movement for justice. We're going to talk about winning for workers, about lifting women and people of color in our organizing and politics, and about building our multiracial, multigenerational, multilingual movement. So to get us started, I'd like to introduce our moderator for the panel, Jessica Burbank. She goes by Ka. Ka, or is it Ka? Ka, sorry. Ka is a creator and organizer with blue-collar roots, like many of us, and she has a passion for education. She is the host of The Hill TV's Friday night news show, Rising, and she's a very familiar face on TikTok, that I'm told, because y'all know I try to act all young and sassy, but I'm a little young, so somebody gonna have to show me how to do the tickety-tockety. Somebody got me? Okay, but she's a very familiar face on TikTok, so I'm so honored to introduce you and the rest of the panel.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to North Carolina. It's usually not a hurricane here, but we have the climate change thing, and I guess Helen wanted to come to Women Will Lead 2024. So here we are. I'm so excited to be with the SEIU. The SEIU is super important to me. I was a bartender. It's how I paid my bills for a few years. And I grew up in a working class household where neither of my parents had college degrees. My dad worked in construction. He sold grapes out of a truck. My mom was a bookkeeper. They did what they needed to make ends meet. And I remember when the financial crisis hit. The housing market crashed, but my father could build houses with his two hands. But we struggled to keep our own while the bankers on Wall Street were bailed out. And that didn't make sense, and that made me an organizer, and a lot of the work I do online I see as organizing, because it's about that mission. Thank you. And so that's the work all of you do. Shout out to Table 19. Whether you're keeping the tenants safe and you're working security or feeding the kids, the work everyone in this room does makes our country run. So we have a really good panel, excited to celebrate all of these women. And I'm going to introduce everyone, and we'll quickly hear from each of them, and then we'll get into a good, real conversation. So I'm going to start with Graysa Martinez-Rosas. She's the director of United We Dream and has been an organizer since she was a student. And she's continued her grassroots advocacy work with United We Dream for about 8 years, along with doing a lot of policy and advocacy work. So I want to start with asking you, what activated you? What made you someone who said, I'm going to fight for my values to be lived out in the world?
Well, thank you for the question. How's everybody doing today? My name is Graysa Martinez-Rosas. I'm the daughter of Luis and Elia Martinez. I'm undocumented, unafraid, queer, and unashamed. And no matter what anyone, whether it's the guy here in North Carolina or the big guy that's running for president, no matter what any of them say, me and the millions of undocumented people here in the US, we are here to stay because this is our home. And it is an honor to be with all of you at SEIU. It is such a pleasure to follow the leadership of April, my sister, and the leadership of all of you. Thank you for creating this moment. And that's why I joined the movement. I was very ashamed of being undocumented in Texas. I thought that I had done something wrong or my parents had done something wrong. I was ashamed when I had to take a job as a babysitter and at 17 years old to live in a family's home, and I thought that it's just what I deserved because I was undocumented and they could treat me however they wanted to. But it wasn't until I found the movement of immigrant young people that was inspired by the labor movement that you all represent that I knew that that was a lie, that I belonged here, that I could have a voice in shaping this democracy, and that I wasn't alone, and that's what brings me here.
Thank you, Gracia. Then we have to her right, so y'all's left, Rachel O'Leary Carmona with the Women's March. She's the executive director, and the Women's March drove out, They drove out record turnout in 2018. They played a key role in defeating Donald Trump in 2020. And they've mobilized millions of voters. Rachel, why don't you tell us what got you activated, what made you someone who fights for your values in the world?
It's such a complex. First of all, shout out. It sounds like there's some marchers in the room. Yes. So on a day-to-day basis, that keeps me really grounded, I think really humble. I think being a part of a membership organization or an organization that is for and by the people who support it really is different than being involved in other organizations. I mean, you all know that because you're union members, right? But when you are accountable to the folks, you know, who are paying dues and who are coming to events and making the work happen, I think it makes you show up in a different way. So I'm thankful for that every day. What got me involved in the movement, I think there were a lot of mitigating factors, but I think where I was radicalized was after high school. I graduated. I'm from Milwaukee. Is everyone here from Milwaukee? Shout out. I'm from Milwaukee, and I was pretty surprised to find out when I graduated that I didn't have the credits to go to college. I didn't have what was necessary, and I worked as a full-time domestic worker for 3 years. And I just don't think there's any place that you're going to get more radicalized when you're cleaning, you know, rich people's houses on your hands and knees. And so that stays with me all the time. You know, those are the folks that I do the work for. That's a lot of my family works in oil and gas, construction, warehouses still. And so I work to build a movement for everyday women.
Thank you, Rachel. And now April Verret, which is an honor to introduce, who got my name right, Ka, that's what mommy calls me. Now, April's a fierce fighter for working people. You all know this. She's also a visionary leader for a new labor movement that is fundamentally anti-racist, and she is the first Black person to be president of the SEIU. April, why don't you tell us all your origin story?
Yeah, so, hey y'all. When I think about my origin story, and a lot of folks in this room know this, right? And I talked about it a little yesterday. I was 2 weeks old when my mother died after complications from my birth. My father lost his life in a jail cell when I was 6. She was 28 when she passed away. My father was 32 when he died. So young. I was raised by my grandmother, who she was 67 years old, died of colon cancer. I was 26. And so I was a baby myself, and had to make sense of them losing their lives really young, right? In 100% preventable ways. You know, maternal health, addiction and depression, and colon cancer, which is preventable if you have the right health care. And so 6 months after my grandmother died, I became an organizer. And shortly thereafter, I fell in love with it. And it was through my journey as an organizer that I learned their deaths were because they were Black and poor in America. And that the gift of my life and what they gave me, because my mother gave up her life so that I could have one. And in many ways, my father and my grandmother did as well. that I had to do something with their sacrifices. And so I'm gonna end racism and poverty with all of you all, so that the sacrifices that they made for me actually deliver something, right? So that the other little black girls like me, and brown girls like you, and white girls like you, and all of us in between don't have to worry about the same things we did growing up, don't have to feel ashamed, or that the world telling us it's our fault, when it is a system that is designed and delivers just what it was designed to deliver, to make us feel less than. And so that's why I'm in this room.
Thank you, April Verrett. We're trying to get a Madam President in the White House, I heard too. So we're going to go to Anderson Clayton, who is the chair of the Democratic Party here in North Carolina, and she is the youngest chair of a state Democratic Party at 25 years old. You are elected. She worked for Congresswoman Kathy Manning's campaign. She worked for Kamala Harris's campaign and Elizabeth Warren's campaigns in Iowa. Anderson, tell us how you got started in organizing.
Yeah, so I'm from, I don't know if we've got anybody from rural North Carolina in here or rural part of your state in here, but I grew up in a tiny town called Roxborough, which is about, if you take Raleigh in the center of the state and you go about an hour north, you're going to hit me before you hit Virginia. And I joke with folks that I spent my entire life running from rural North Carolina and thinking I needed to get out of it because I had some very different ideas sometimes than folks that I thought had the loudest voices around me in those communities sometimes. And so I went to Appalachian State University, and to be honest with y'all, I credit the first time that I ever really got politically engaged with being on that campus. And there's a little trope that Republicans kind of have, and I'm sorry because I'm the Democratic Party chair, so I'm the one to get political up here in that sense, more so with it. But I think that for me right now, what I saw was Republicans have always said, you know, college is what makes people liberal. And I said, yeah, but it was Republicans in college that made me liberal, actually, because of the fact that in 2016, when we had a Republican governor in the state of North Carolina, the only Republican governor that we've had out of the last 8 terms of governors in the state, because they're not that popular, to be honest with y'all here, considering Mark Robinson, who's running this year in North Carolina. But in 2016, when we had a Republican governor in North Carolina, how polling locations are decided on college campuses are decided by Board of Elections in each different county in the state. Whoever controls the governor's office in North Carolina controls the boards of elections in every single county. And that year, the Republican governor, Pat McCrory, decided that he wanted to disenfranchise college students on campuses across the UNC system and across the state by stripping voting locations away from those college campuses. And in 2016, it was not, right here in Mecklenburg County where Charlotte is that decided they were going to fight that. And it was not, Wake County where Raleigh is that decided they were going to fight that. It was a little tiny county party in the mountains of North Carolina where they are experiencing, and our hearts are with them today, a tremendous amount of flooding. And what's happening in every other state right now is also happening in the western part of our state too. So our hearts are going out to them, and we are with them today and keeping in touch with our elected leaders out there. But it was a party in the western part of the state that decided we were going to stand up and fight back against oppression of any kind against voters in North Carolina, even young voters in the state of North Carolina. And so in 2016, they sued the State Board of Elections, this little county party that took all of the money that they raised from their plant sale every year, and said, we're going to fight to make sure this voting site stays. And in 2016, when North Carolina went red for Donald Trump for the first time, we had Watauga County in the mountains of North Carolina that went blue for the first time in history because students turned out to vote like they never had. And it was people that were ranging from the ages of 17 to 70 that were on that college campus talking to young people about their rights and why it was important for them to know that they had them and that they could use them on that campus and in that community that year. And it's what got me involved for the first time because I had never felt like a political party was reaching out to me in a place like rural North Carolina before that. And so the opportunity that we have is so grand when you think about just engaging people and thinking that somebody everywhere is somebody worth talking to.
We are lucky to have Anderson here. Let's go to Minnie. Minnie Tamaraju is the Reproductive Freedom for All president and CEO. She's organized for over 20 years. She has experience fighting for justice at the federal, state, and local level, and in reproductive justice, gender justice, and racial justice. So Minnie, tell us what got you started.
Thank you for having me. And I want to give a shout out to care workers in particular, because the reason I have my phone on is I have little kids, and I'm sandwich generation. I'm taking care of my mom and my kids, and I have caregivers coming in and out of the house right now. And you know how that goes. You need to be in touch all the time. So I am grateful. I would not be here and be able to do this work without the women of color in my family, in my household right now, taking care of my family. So shout out to all caregivers. So Reproductive Freedom for All is a membership organization as well, 4 million members strong, in solidarity with SEIU. Thrilled to be your partner, thrilled to be here. Yes. My family immigrated here from India in the early 70s. So I'm what they call like a 1.5 generation kid. Like I was born there, but raised here. And what got me organized, I think for a lot of us who are immigrant kids, it's watching your community function and evolve, right? When we got here, we weren't that large of a community. So everybody was an organizer, right? Like, where do we get the groceries? We might have to drive 2 hours into another metro area to get the right ingredients for our special foods, right? So it'd be like bartering and figuring out which auntie's going to which city. How do I get some of that? So all of that natural organizing. But there were two things that happened in my lifetime, and my mother is my role model as an organizer, so it's an honor to be able to take care of her now. You know, one was when we first immigrated to this country, we were in New Jersey in the 70s, and there was a white supremacist gang called the Dot Busters that was targeting immigrants from India. And I was a little kid, but one of my first memories was the aunties in the community being like, we're not gonna be intimidated. We're not gonna stop showing up in, you know, our ethnic wear. We're gonna stop going to the temple. We're not gonna stop, you know, creating our cultural events and having our cultural foods. And it made a big impact on me that these little, you know, tiny in stature women really were not intimidated or afraid by these thugs. So that was a seminal moment for me. Like, this is important. You gotta stick with your people. But the women of color in my life were really proud and fierce. And the second for me was in high school. As an immigrant kid in Texas, because then we'd moved to Houston, the Houston suburbs. It was the first Gulf War, and I wrote an op-ed for my high school newspaper criticizing the war. And I had a teacher tell me at school to go back to where I came from if I didn't like it here. My teacher. So, again, my mother was not having that. Marched all the way to the principal's office, threw up a fuss, little Indian woman, full accent, like Kamala Harris's mom, my mom, short in stature, accented, you know, but people didn't take her seriously when she walked in a room. When she opened her mouth, they were intimidated because she was really on top of her arguments. So, you know, threats to sue, all the things that a good, you know, mom does when her daughter's being racially intimidated by her own teacher. So those were some of those experiences that made me realize, you know, we have to stand up for each other, and that organizing, even on the smallest level, it works. Right? There's an opportunity for us to be, if we're gonna be in this country as immigrants, we don't have to accept the injustices. We can actually invest in social structures, and we can make this country better, right? It's our job. So, I mean, yeah, that's part of it, like being an immigrant kid and having a badass mom.
It's amazing how many of these stories are so similar. Yeah. And coming at it from very different lines of work, but all connected, maybe, right? The Unions for All campaign is how we are going to find a voice in the workplace and maybe our democracy too. April, I want to ask you how all of this work is connected to the Unions for All mission.
Well, I believe, again, that we must center worker power if we're going to do the big stuff, right? It is not possible to have a thriving democracy if you don't have strong unions. It's just not possible. Nowhere on the globe are there thriving democracies without a strong worker movement. And so if we are going to do the big stuff, like have a thriving democracy, like end systemic and structural racism, end poverty, push back on corporate greed, heal our planet, whatever it is our wildest dreams imagines, we gotta build worker organization and worker power. And it's not okay to just go out and organize the white dudes and the hard hats, right? Because they got power in this economy. They got power in this country. We got to build power for those who don't have it today, right? So that is why we center low-wage workers in our organizing. That is why we center workers from the South in our organizing. That's why we center women and Black women and brown women and immigrants and young people and marginalized folks in our organizing. Because if we're going to build a 21st century movement for 21st century workers in a 21st century economy, we gotta go to the places where those of us who don't have power have the opportunity to go and get us some.
Let's talk about women in 2024. Sometimes I host on a show on the Hill TV called Rising, where I sit across from someone who is usually very right-wing. And whenever I talk about the statistics of what the impact of overturning Roe is, I see fear in their eyes. They do not like it when we talk about this. Good is right. Good. They should be. And so I want to turn first to Rachel. Let's talk about what 2024 means specifically for women.
There's so many different ways that you can get in to this question, but my personal opinion is that the gutting of Roe and the Dobbs decision in 2022 created a new era of American politics. And I think that inside of that era, we have had the sides of the battle very clearly drawn. Our opposition, the people who are in cahoots, not just to attack bodily autonomy, reproductive freedom, but they're also the same people who are attacking workers' rights. They're the same people who are attacking books in schools. They're not even the same political party. It's literally the same funders and organizations. You can track the money back to 2-3 people, And so I think that, what 2024 means for women is really an opportunity to come together as a power block and as a voting block. We need to win in 2024, up and down ballot everywhere, that we know. But what I think that we need to do is also practice a new way of being and understanding so that we can really contend with and wield power such that people don't remember that women are a constituency that need services and support and need to be listened to once every 4 years when it's time to come knocking for your vote, but rather that power is built consistently, not every 4 years, not every 2 years, not related to an election cycle, but all the time. There's a sociologist that says other countries have social safety nets and the United States has women. And I think that in 2024, we need to understand those are our conditions. And if we understand that and are comfortable as women, a lot of times we've been socialized in different ways, but if we actually contend with power, respect power, and wield the power we have, because we have a gang of power, we have a lot of power, as a block, as workers, everything. And if we can really get comfortable with how to get, keep, and use power and govern, we can change the world.
Minnie, you're up close and personal with this. I want to hear from you as well, what you see the impact of 2024 potentially being. Is there stuff out there that's scaring you that maybe isn't making it to everyone in the news?
Yeah, no, plus to everything Rachel said. I will say we have an opportunity to fundamentally reshape American politics with women of color at the center of this work, right? Not just April, not just us, but at the very top, right? Kamala Harris. And you cannot separate, to me, what happened with jobs from the moment we're in now, right? We've had this earthquake of political activism, and Vice President Harris has been the tip of the spear in the American response to the crisis created by overturning Roe. And by that I mean she has herself led the whole of government response. She's had hundreds of meetings across the country, some right here in North Carolina. I know Anderson's met with her, digging into what we can do about it and how we can fix it. So to me, one of the things that I'm concerned about, and I can get totally political here, right? You're organizers, and you're gonna be knocking on doors at the end of this awesome convening. A lot of voters, yes you are, do not know that Donald Trump caused this crisis. It is scary. They are like, oh, you know, well, Joe Biden was president when we lost Roe, so maybe it's Joe Biden's fault. Or if Kamala is vice president, why didn't she already fix it? So I'm gonna give you, if it's okay, some quick talking points, all right? And this isn't just for the doors, this is for your friends and family. Do not assume anyone in your own universe, you know, at your beauty shop, at your corner store, all the places you go understands all of the nuance here. And Donald Trump and J.D. Vance will do everything they can to distract and lie about their records. And a lot of folks, it's easy to get confused when the candidate is just lying, bald-faced lying. So Donald Trump appointed the justices to the court that overturned Roe. Number one, he is responsible. Since Roe was overturned, 20 states have banned or restricted abortion access, creating a crisis that has led to the death of 2 black women in Georgia, Amber Nicole Thurman and Candy Miller. We gotta remember their names. Amber Nicole Thurman and Candy Miller would be alive today if it wasn't for Donald Trump. We gotta be harsh about it. It's the truth. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have a plan to fix it. But that means we have to elect candidates up and down the ticket, right? We gotta take back the House, we gotta hold the Senate, and they will move a bill to Kamala Harris's desk that she can sign to restore our fundamental freedoms. And that's more than just abortion, although abortion is a big, big part of it. It's birth control. It's reproductive technologies like IVF. It's access to fundamental services in healthcare deserts where, because of abortion bans, doctors are leaving the states, right? Like in Idaho, you gotta go to the next state to get access to OBGYN care if you're in certain parts of the state, because doctors are leaving. We have huge parts of the country where OBGYNs don't feel comfortable practicing medicine because they're being prosecuted by the state. That's what happened in so many of these cases. So we're in a national crisis. Donald Trump caused it. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz can fix it. And women are dying because of these abortion bans. Those are your messages.
So when Anderson was in Iowa, I was also in Iowa in 2020. During that primary, I encountered for the first time knocking a door and having a woman answer it. And once she realizes I'm with a political campaign, she says, "Oh, you have to talk to my husband." I said, "No, your name's the one on my list. Like, I'm here for you." And she says, "No, like, I don't talk to anyone politically. He makes the decisions. I can't talk to you." That's real, many times too. And Anderson, I want to talk to you about 2024 and what this vote means for women showing up to the polls.
I mean, I think it means everything for us this year. It means our livelihoods. It means the opportunity for us to decide what we want to do with our own bodies. And it also is the opportunity for you to decide how you'd like to live your future in North Carolina. And especially for women across our state right now who in 2023, we sit currently in this state in a super minority in both our state house and state senate by 1 vote. So Republicans control both chambers of our state legislature. And what they decided to do last year, instead of raising wages for people in the state of North Carolina from $7.25, that's the legal minimum wage in the state right now, or repealing right to work laws that are still on the books in North Carolina that prevent people from unionizing in the state. Instead, what they decided to do, instead of passing Medicaid expansion like they should have until the last minute, but they instead decided that they were going to restrict abortion rights in North Carolina even more. And they took us to a 12-week abortion ban, a 10-week medical abortion ban in the state. And Mark Robinson, who's running for governor this year, and every single Republican that's running with him has said, and you know what, that just wasn't far enough for us. They've not passed a budget this year in North Carolina. They're defunding our public schools in North Carolina, the places that are, our opportunity zones for people across North Carolina and any zip code that they're in to be able to have that opportunity. Women across our state, young people across our state, not that, right? They decided that restricting rights was more important to them. And so for me this year, women are the powerhouses of our economy in North Carolina. We're 52% of this state right now. And when you think about the fact that Republicans have not only restricted your bodily autonomy rights, but have restricted your right to have better wages, to make better lives for your families, to prevent where your kids go to school from having what they need, to prevent your teachers that are working in those classrooms from being able to give those kids what they need, that's what your Republicans are focused on right now more this year. So I think it's really important, quite frankly, for women to stand up. And to the point that y'all were making earlier, we are the safety net. And we're going to make damn sure that they hear our safety net and they see our safety net in November again. And we are going to work towards, in North Carolina, making it so that this is a party that respects women and that puts women at the forefront of it by helping elevate those that are working people right now in our party to run for higher positions in office and to have that recruitment effort with labor unions in the state. We've got a great person running for Commissioner of Labor right now in North Carolina, Braxton Winston, who is going to be a phenomenal fighter for workers and women across our state. He would be the first card-carrying union member to sit in our Commissioner of Labor role, and we want to make sure that happens this year, y'all.
Now, we're in North Carolina, which is a battleground state for 2024. It's also tied with South Carolina for the lowest union density in the country. So I want to hear from Graca. Do you see the South as this sort of next frontier for organizing unions, and how do you see migrants as a part of this picture?
I guess I want to start off by talking about a couple of things. The first thing is that the South historically has demonstrated the ability, as April was saying, that everything that happens in the South creates a condition for all of the political things to happen and emerge. And the fact that there's low density here in the South is not for lack of organizing or trying. We are living and existing in an ecosystem that knows that organized workers are a threat to the status quo. Yes. And they've known that. They've invested for decades and hundreds of years in taking away the worker powers. And as an undocumented woman and as a representative of 1.2 million undocumented young people, I tell you that for the longest time, part of the strategy has been to tell us the lie that we don't have any power, that we should just be grateful to have a job to feed our kids, or maybe 3 jobs to feed our kids and pay our rent, and that we don't deserve better. The same shame that I had 15 years ago when I was a young person in Dallas, Texas, I'm telling you that exists today. I'm sure that there's people in your own lives that feel like, nah, I ain't trying to do none of that organizing work. I'm just trying to pay my bills. I'm just trying to survive. And there's nothing to be ashamed of in that moment, but I think that part of it is that we've been told the lie that we are just characters in someone else's story. That the far right has said that people of color, that women in particular, so just sit down, shut up, and do as you're told. That's the story, that they know better, that they've been planning for longer, that they have more money, and that we shouldn't even try. But the truth is that we reject that false story, that we reject the lies that are told about us, and actually, we are the protagonist of our own story. That we're the people that make the impossible possible. That our women of color, immigrant women, are the main creators and originators of story. And so I think that it's time for all of us to start acting like it. We're not just some B character in a good movie or rom-com, if you're with me. We're not just like the cute friend that comes out later. We are the protagonist, the main characters. And this election, at United We Dream, we say that we do not owe ourselves to the Democrats. We do not owe ourselves to the Republicans. We owe ourselves to our families, to our communities, and the vision and the dreams of our parents and our loved ones. And that will mean that we need to create independent political power, which the unions represent. Independent political power that is able to create the conditions. So yes, this election is important. A lot of people are taking a lot of work to create the right conditions, but politicians are not our saviors. Yeah. Politicians are our targets or our partners. We are the ones that create the political conditions for the things that we need and that are desired. And so, yes, we're gonna have an election. We're gonna work and organize for the conditions that we want, but there's gonna be 10 years down the road. The next 10 years are gonna be critical to creating the next 100 years that are possible for our folks. And I'm ready, and I know that you're ready, to have a government that actually works for us. So my call to you is we need you to govern. We need you to govern in your homes, in your locals, in your state parties, in our communities, in the stories. We need your poetry to emerge. We need your laughter and your music to emerge. That is governing as a woman. It's not, the final thing that I'll share with you is that there's a lot of people that talk about the polling and the strategic framework, and those things are important. And I know that if you're an SEIU member, you're trained on that shit all the time. But there is also a truth that this moment is about spiritual resilience. And spiritual resilience as the strategic framework, so that we do not give in to the lies that have been sown into our hearts and our minds for decades since we were born, that we're less than a man, that we should just sit down and shut up. And so the call to you all also is to give into your spiritual power. Not spiritual in the woo-woo kind of only sense, but in the strategic power that will ensure that we're centered in and driving and building power for the long term. And so I'm excited to be here. It's what I think the South is going to give to all of us, and I'm ready to do it with SEIU.
On that note, it's the best part. Audience questions. I want to hear from Carmilla about Michigan. We need to give her a microphone. Oh, the lights are on. Woo! There, we found it.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I'm Carmilla Johnson. I was born and raised in Jamaica, Queens, New York. But I live in Michigan, Flint, Michigan now. I've been a part of the union for 32 years. I'm the president of the Flint Community Schools Paraprofessionals, and I am the divisional vice president for Region 5117M, Region 3. Our president is also Joey Combs, the first woman of color for 517M. In Michigan, we are winning. We have overturned right to work in Michigan, honey. Okay? We have won payroll deduction for our school workers again. And 35,000 home care workers are winning back their unions. So if we can do it in Michigan, you can do it here in Carolina. And that's why we're here to help you. And I kept saying, why are we going to South Carolina? Now I know why. Because y'all need our help and we need your help and we got you. Okay. It's very powerful to be here, but we need to keep up this momentum. Nothing against men, but we know who runs the world. Girls, okay? How do you recommend that we continue to do this work when we go back home? Take the mic off, start singing, I'm telling you.
I'll start. So first of all, congratulations. And can we bottle it up and take it everywhere else? I mean, I think, look, it's feeling like we've been doing this forever, right? People are tired. How many of you are tired? So what did, Tim Walz says, we'll sleep when we're dead. I mean, I feel like you're here. We have the rejuvenation, right? You have the self-care. It's important. We got to look out for each other. We cannot burn ourselves out. What is it, 39 more days? That's like 5 more weeks. That's still a good long chunk of this. I think the way to continue the momentum of the work is to continue to have, somebody else already said this, it might have been you, Grace, said, like, the joy has to be part of the work, not to be woo-woo about it, as to use your term, my friend. But there has to be something. I think what you just did actually is it. It's a combination of the joy and the inspiration. So how do you get the people around you more hype, right? How do you help them see something bigger and bolder in this work than just electing politicians? Electing politicians is like, who cares, right? But empowering us to be in the driver's seat so that people who look and come from communities like ours are going to help reshape the conditions for us and our families to thrive, that's different than door knocking for a politician, right? So it's like reframing the work and centering ourselves in the work. So what that looks like for us in reproductive freedom is, working with younger people, making sure the folks most impacted by these bans are centered in the work. That's Black and brown women, that's younger women, and that we're letting them lead the way. And we're listening to them and we're learning from them. So that's just a couple of examples, but you're doing it, and we just need you times 100, which we have already.
I just want to add one short thing. Don't make these last 2 days be just something that happened these last 2 days.
Yes.
You are learning things here that I encourage you to take back to your homes. How to build community with other women who also are on a leadership journey, who share your vision, for change in our world. So keep building communities and keep sustaining yourselves, right? And I was talking to someone earlier. A lot of the experiences that you all have experienced here in terms of wellness and self-care maybe isn't accessible to you, right, at home for lots of reasons. But taking a walk is something you can do almost anywhere, right? So find ways to pay attention to your physical and your mental and your spiritual well-being. Don't just make that something you did here for 2 days, but really, how do you sustain yourself and build community?
And electing politicians is not everything. I'll give everybody credit for that. But what I will say, my hometown in Roxborough, for the first time in 2021, had a woman named Shayna Outlaw, who's a service worker at McDonald's, elected to the city council for the first time to represent workers.
Love it.
That was because we got out and we knocked 621 doors. That was it. 621 doors. And we had army of little people now that are going back and saying, man, what else could we do in 2025, right? Like 621, because these smaller races that people tend not to pay attention to, that impact your communities the most, that we have the opportunity to put working people on those boards and commissions and places that are making decisions that are going to impact, sorry, she said, lower your volume, girlfriend.
Slow down.
That are going to impact those areas of where your livelihood is being put on the line every day too. I think it is such a we tend to look so much up here instead of looking right down here. And there's places where you in your own backyard can really seed that movement and help people and help educate folks about how many people in Michigan still don't know that, like in North Carolina, we got right to work laws still on the books. And so educating people about the South and about the areas like this where, to the point that we're talking about why unionization has been so hard here, right, is because of the history of when unionization moved from the Midwest down to the South, and union busting started happening so much in manufacturing labor. And so I just think that all of us are so interconnected, and we need to remember that when we look at how do we build power across communities and across regions in this country, and how much education there is still left to do about what's happening in places like North Carolina and just this entire region in general.
Now I'm looking for Mary Bell Macbeth. Raise your hand. Is Mary Bell here? There we go.
Hi, my
We're
name
gonna get
is
her
Mary
mic.
Bell Macbeth. I'm with the Union 32BJ in Charlotte. We're with the...
Turn around, honey. Turn around.
You want me to face that way? They told me to-
We can hear you better if you're looking this way.
Okay. I work in the airport as a cabin cleaner. I work at the airport as a cabin cleaner. I've been there for 12 years. My question is, many people say it is too difficult to organize for workers' rights and racial justice in the South. But as an airport worker, I think we can win big victories here. How can organizing in the South help us win unions for all workers?
So I'll take first stab at that, right? And it is too difficult to organize workers in the South. It's too difficult to organize workers any damn where in this country, right? But it is particularly too difficult to do it here in the South. And just a history lesson. Economic exploitation, the worst of economic exploitation, the worst wage theft, the worst job conditions, the worst of any type of anything that you could think about that was bad done to working people in this continent started in the American South and in the Caribbean with enslaved black people. You can't think of a worse labor condition than being in slavery. And the economic exploitation that is still practiced in the American South and in other parts of this country is a direct descendant and offshoot and product of slavery in this country. And so we gotta first tell the truth about why union busting exists. It is because they never wanted workers to have power in the first damn place. And so they chose to make us totally powerless, right? And if they could continue to get away with taking away your power the way they continue to take it away in the American South, they will. And so first we gotta be able to tell that story in ways that people can digest it. Because I get it. Everybody can't take it as raw as I just dealt it out, right? And so I'm working on myself. But we have to tell the truth about the conditions that exist for working people in this country. And we also have to tell the truth, the rules that are on the books for how people form unions don't work for us because they were written by corporations. And they were compromises made in order to pass a bill that was imperfect. And it was compromises made in the 1930s to get white Southerners to sign on to pass it that disenfranchised black people and women. Right? And so part of why it's so hard is because they didn't want us to have unions in the first place. So I think we gotta write new rules. Right? We got to write new rules that actually allow domestic workers to be able to form unions. Right? that actually allow workers to have a real safe choice where they aren't intimidated and harassed, into voting no. We need new rules. When I talk about 21st century rules for 21st century workers, that is part of what we gotta fix, not just in the South, but all over the country. And we also can't give up, right? Because it may take us a while to get there, but we'll never get there if we don't keep trying, if we don't keep pushing, right? And so the power that we're building all over this country and in Canada and in Puerto Rico, Mariceli, needs to be leveraged and used to build power in the places where we need it the most, like here in North Carolina, right? We cannot leave this part of the country behind, because if we don't go fix what was originally broken, it's never, ever gonna work right, y'all, right? I'm sure you got something in your life that you try to put together and you try to put duct tape on it or a rubber band, maybe a little crazy glue, but it don't ever work right until you take it apart and you rebuild it. And you rebuild it with the values and with the strength that it requires. You build it with the power that it requires, and that's what's gonna happen here in the South.
I wanna, our leader, come on. Yeah. Yes, all of the things that April said. And first I want to just say thank you for your work. I know that you work in the airport and you allowed for your work, and that of your colleagues allowed for all of us to land here today. So thank you. Thank you for that. Gracias, muchas gracias. And in that, I also want to April's point, there's a story that some people want to say that it's so hard, that it's impossible, but we know that in particular in the South, women in Georgia defended and protected our democracy last presidential election. We know that also in the South, you've seen the most innovative organizing because of the conditions that we've ever seen in the world, and that the whole country looks to the South for the ideas, the innovations, and the breakthroughs that our people need. That is what's also living here. It's the ability to be able to think about a new way. Just because the way that other people have said or have tried it in other places doesn't work, we are place-based organizers for a reason. And the final thing that I'll say is that that was the past. In this moment, we are facing not only compounding catastrophes of climate change, as we talked about at the beginning of this, an economic crisis that is hitting in particular our people, an immigration and crisis that we're seeing hundreds of thousands of millions of people come to our borders for help and support. And in my organizing training, I was taught that every challenge comes with an opportunity. Every challenge comes with an opportunity. And so what women in particular here in the South are well versed to do is to find those opportunities, break that little sliver and break the shell and make a way. That's what women were designed to do, to bring life even through pain and even through darkness. And that's exactly why I think it's gonna be important for organizing to be grounded in relationships. And the infrastructure has already been built. And I can commit from United We Dream Action and the members of United We Dream that we'll be standing with you side by side as we build the union infrastructure that we need here in the South.
Can I add one? So I just want to add one more talking point for you when you're talking to people in the South about reproductive freedom as well. And it ties in, you'll hear Donald Trump likes to say, it's a beautiful thing. We sent it to the States. We sent it to the States. We sent it to the States, right? That's what everybody wanted. No, that's not true. Everybody did not want that. We cannot give up on the South. We cannot abandon our sisters and brothers in the South where we have states with the worst maternal health outcomes, right? The states with the worst maternal health outcomes are the states with the worst abortion bans. And they happen to be the states where, because of the erosion of our democracy in those states, we don't have the ability to go straight to the people for a ballot measure to move, right? We have to go through the legislature. And in a lot of these states, the legislature, as we were talking about, is stacked against us. So it's important for folks to understand that states' rights, I mean, we all know what that's code for, but we have to explain it, right? Well, Donald Trump said we didn't ban abortion, we just sent it to the states. Well, most of the states that have the abortion bans are in the South. So how are we going to fix it? We can fix it at the federal level. And we got most of the big civil rights breakthroughs we've had in our country, labor rights, civil rights, immigration rights. We've had to do it at the federal level and force some of these extremely racist governments in the South to do what they're supposed to do for our fundamental human rights. So when you're talking to folks about abortion and reproductive freedom, and they say, well, you know, we heard he just sent it to the states. Are we just going to give up on the women in those 20 states who have no access to freedom? Hell no. Absolutely not. Hell no.
And also to add on to that, 55% of Black Americans live in the South right now. So when you think about that, who is it disproportionately impacting always? And that is something when you talk about the future of this party and where it needs to invest in, it is places that have gerrymandered state legislators or legislatures that have been under Republican oppression for far too long because they have not had access to actually have franchise voting power in those states in a lot of capacities. And so just looking at this region alone, the South has so much political power to offer in every single way, shape, and form. And that is also why I thank all of you for being here today. I thank April and the SEIU for valuing this region of the country because it matters that you're here.
I would add just one thing, and that's to say if you're talking about abortion, if you're talking about organizing and, you know, talking about unions, you're talking about immigration or the border, whatever you're talking about, you're actually the best person to talk about it with that person. Because more than ever, people do not trust the news. You know, and we know that some news is actually not trustworthy, so there's really good reason for that. But the fact is that public opinion is being formed in conversations with people just like you, in closed Facebook groups, in group chats. It is the way that most Americans get their information. So you're the best people to have this conversation, and yeah, it's hard. You know, but you're also the you know, listen, the bad news is there's no cavalry. No one's coming to help us. When the Dobbs leak happened in 2022, people kept saying, they'll never let that actually happen. And I kept thinking, who is they? Who's they? You know, and the truth is that a lot of folks learn the hard way that we are they. We're the cavalry. We're the cavalry. And we have to show up for us. So the bad news is no one's coming to save us. The good news is we didn't want to be saved. As she don't want to be saved. We didn't want to be saved. We are enough. So we are here. We are enough. You are the right person for that conversation, and we will win.
Now we are going to hear from the lovely Camia from Starbucks.
Hi, I'm Camilla, or Mia Paulino.
Camilla.
I use she, her pronouns. I'm with Starbucks Workers United in Seattle, Washington, and I'll be speaking. Thank you. And as you can tell, I'll be speaking in English. So I came to this convention to learn from workers in the South and workers in other industries that haven't been historically organized. And I've seen firsthand the power of unions, the strength that workers hold collectively within their individual unions. But how can we unite these distinct unions across culture and across industry to build a more cohesive labor movement to support the working class in general?
I think
Everyone's
Grace should
looking at
answer this
April.
question because I know what she's gonna say. I think I know what you're gonna say. Grace, do it.
Okay. Your president tells you to do something, you're in it. So first I want to say thank you for your work. It's been so inspiring. It's been energizing for our people. And I think what I'll offer are two things. One is, as April said, there is no strong democracy without a strong labor movement. And there is no strong labor movement without strong workers and strong leaders. And part of the challenge that we find ourselves in today is to remind our communities and our people that the Labor Party and the labor unions are their homes, their political homes. And so there is millions of undocumented people that are just waiting to continue to be invited into this labor movement, and that they're just waiting to be organized by each of us. And it's in order for us to do that, it's going to require that we, one, invite them, because they're ready to come in. They're ready for the party. And that's why the investment, the organizing, the conversations, as Rachel was saying, are so important. And the second thing is, at United We Dream, we talk about a term called interdependent thriving. That means that the experiences of a Latina queer woman in the United States are not the same experiences as a Black woman in the South. And sometimes we get into trouble when we try to make all of those things the same, and they're not. There is a lot of space and unique needs that our people have, but we have to build a labor movement that is able to hold the complexities of the whole while moving together. So we cannot flatten our experiences. We have to be able to speak to the unique experiences and needs that our people have. And the second thing is the piece about rigor. Rigor in organizing and thinking about the long run. I don't know about you, but I've been undocumented in this country for more than 20 years. I continue to be undocumented here. Every year I hear someone promising me that there's going to be papers and then finally I'll be a citizen. But the truth is that I've been a citizen since I came to the country. I've cared about my community. I've invested in campaigns. I helped shape this democracy. I don't need no white guy telling me that I'm a citizen now. And it's hard when you face every day the threat of deportation and the threat of what could happen in our homes. And so there has to be rigor in looking to be good ancestors for the people that are to come. We're not going to get easy victories, because the big things that we want to win, they're not easy, but they are awe-inspiring. They are worthy causes that we have to put into it, and it requires us showing up every single day with the rigor and the discipline of hope, the discipline of building real power and not just the one that is smoke and mirrors. And power means people. And so that's two offerings to you: ensuring that we're thriving independently, interdependently, and building rigor for the long run.
All right,
Told ya.
We're gonna wrap it up with super fast, like one sentence of what is giving you hope right now, and we'll just go down the line, starting with Gracia.
There's this song that I sing that I want to share with you all today, and it's the thing that helps me ground myself, and it helps me remind myself that I'm not alone. So it's a call and repeat song. You ready to call and repeat with me? Okay. Solid as a rock. Solid as a rock. Rooted like a tree. Rooted like a tree. We are here. We are here. Standing strong. Standing strong. In our rightful place. Okay. I feel the spirit trying to move around here. So I'm gonna invite you, if you feel the spirit, to join me too. You ready? Solid as a rock. Solid as a rock. Rooted like a tree. Rooted like a tree. We are here. We are here. Standing strong. Standing strong. In our rightful place. In our rightful place.
I love how organizers are like one sentence. They're like, we're actually all gonna sing a song right now. It's gonna be fun. I should have expected it. It's classic. All right, Rachel. That's it? We're good with that. Yes, we are. But everyone needs to stand up again because I have the very important task of taking a selfie of all of us. Okay. All right. All right, everyone. Am I gonna get everyone? We're gonna get everyone. It's like my job. This is what I do. Hi, everyone. Everyone say. Ready? Unions for all on 3. 1, 2, 3.
That's awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Please stay up at the stage so we can all take a big group picture. Everybody, like, go crowd up at the stage. We'll take a big group picture of everyone facing the back of the room. Let's go. Everyone, please group up at the stage. We're going to take a group photo of all of our members. Come on up to the stage. We're going to take a big group photo. We're all going to face the back of the room. This is like the big class photo for the yearbook. Come on, everybody. Don't be shy. If you're able to get up, let's come take a big photo with all of our members and our panelists facing the back of the room.
All right, everybody in the room, come on up to the stage. We're going to take a big picture of everybody who's at our Women's Summit. Do not leave the room. Come to the stage. I know everybody here likes taking pictures. Come right on up, crowd on up. We want to get everybody's pretty face in here. I've seen you all take pictures. I know you know how to do it. All right, move on up, crowd on in. Let's pick up the pace a little bit because we got our workshops to get to.
I don't know how many people that stage might actually.
All right, if you're not already on the stage, stand in front of the stage. We are at capacity on the stage. Please stand in front of the stage. Fill on in. If you're not already on the stage, stand in front of the stage. All right, in front of the stage, fill in front of the stage here. If you're not in, get in. I know we gotta love on up at each other, get close. We got some tables, get close.